We're judging you based off how good you put these cards on.
Yeah. How
So you
graceful.
nailed it.
Can you do it gracefully? Are they on straight? Are they twisted?
Okay, a couple of instructions here before we get started. Everybody can see the timer, right? Okay, so you will have 1 minute to look at your cards, make notes on your cards, prepare yourself for your demonstration. You can write on your card. There's no talking between team members, no secret hand gestures or sign language between each other. Keep your comments to your demonstration. After 1 minute, we'll get started with your presentation. You can go up to 11 minutes without time deductions. And then after that, we will do oral questions. Any questions before we get started?
Everybody breathe.
Okay. Mr. Meyerhofer?
Yes, we are set for 1 minute, beginning now. That is 1 minute. Dr. Maxwell will start the timer on the guy.
Is there any new business?
Mr. President.
Delegate 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. As a member of the prevailing side, I move to reconsider the motion that states that the Olney FFA chapter work with the Township Road Commissioner to coordinate a roadside cleanup day this summer.
Second. It has been moved and seconded to reconsider the motion that states that the Olney FFA chapter work with the Township Road Commissioner to coordinate a roadside cleanup day this summer. This motion is not amendable, but it is debatable and requires a majority vote to be reconsidered. Is there any debate?
Mr. President.
You have the first rights, Delegate 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in affirmation to this reconsider. Last meeting, this motion was passed, and after further consideration, I believe that we now need to fail this motion. One of the key tenets of the FFA mission is living to serve. As FFA members, I believe it is our duty to help our environment and our community out, and I believe by hosting this motion, we would be doing just that. For these reasons, I encourage a yes vote on the motion.
Mr. President.
Delegate 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm against reconsidering this motion. We passed this because we've already done something similar with Adopt a Highway, so this would be a relatively easy motion to do. And also, this would give our members volunteer hours, which they need to put on different applications and will look great on different scholarships. So I'm urging the Assembly to fail us reconsider.
Are you ready for the question? The question is on reconsidering the motion that states that the Olney FFA chapter work with the Township Road Commissioner to coordinate a roadside cleanup day this summer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
The noes have it, and this motion will not be reconsidered.
Mr. President.
Delegate 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Olney FFA chapter conduct a surplus hay drive in our community during the month of May, with the proceeds to be distributed to a drought-stricken FFA chapter in Kansas.
Second. It has been moved and seconded that the Olney FFA chapter conduct a surplus hay drive in our community during the month of May, with the proceeds to be distributed to a drought-stricken FFA chapter in Kansas. This motion is amendable, debatable, and requires a majority vote to be passed. Is there any debate?
Mr. President.
Consideration of this
The
question.
consideration of the question has been objected to. Shall we consider the question? All in favor of considering this question, please signify by rising. Thank you. You may be seated. All opposed? Thank you. You may be seated. The motion there are less than 2/3 in the opposition, therefore we shall consider the question. Is there any debate?
Mr.
President.
You have the first rights, Delegate 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this is an amazing idea. As you know, Kansas is in a drought right now, and that is very terrible to their agriculture. So I think this surplus hay drive would be an amazing idea to send these funds to this FFA chapter. It will show our true care for the community and build up community support for us. I'm urging the Assembly to pass this main motion.
I raise
Mr.
a question
President.
of privilege affecting the Assembly.
Please hear your question, Delegate 2.
May we please lower the thermostat? It is very hot in here.
No, it may not, for that may not be in the interest of the other members.
I appeal from the decision of the chair chair.
It's been properly moved and seconded to appeal the chair's decision. The question is on sustaining the chair's decision. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
The ayes have it, the chair's decision is sustained.
Mr. President.
Delegate 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. I cannot stand behind this motion. Seeing that we are already on May 4th, I'm worried by the time we have this motion set up, we will not have enough time to host this hay drive. Also, with our seniors' last day being next Wednesday, I'm worried we will not have the help that we need from our senior members, and therefore this motion will not work out well. Urging these to leave it down.
Mr. President.
You have the floor, Delegate 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do not believe that this is the best course of action for our chapter. We are in a very small community, and I don't believe that we will get enough people together to raise enough funds. Transportation fees could be a big problem being in Kansas and we're on Eastern Illinois. So for these reasons, is it really worth it? Vote down.
Mr. President.
Delegate 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise and engage into this motion. We recently had our annual strawberry fundraiser, and I believe that if we were to host this surplus hay drive in our community, we would simply just be asking our alumni and supporters for money. I believe, not to mention, we have over $30,000 in our treasury at the moment. I believe if we really wanted to do something, we could give some of this money to for this cause. For these reasons, I encourage a yes vote or a no vote on the motion.
Mr. President.
Delegate 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. This main motion is a horrendous idea. Seeing that hay is not commonly grown in Richland County, I think it would be very hard to get all this hay for this drive. Also, instead of serving Kansas, I think we need to serve more close to home in Illinois. Fail this main motion.
Mr. President.
Delegate 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to postpone this matter indefinitely.
It's been properly moved and seconded to postpone this matter indefinitely. This motion is not amendable, however, it is debatable and requires a majority vote to be passed. Is there any debate?
Mr. President.
Delegate 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this postponement is the best way in failing this motion. Seeing that farmers are getting into their busiest time of the year, I'm worried that we are not going to be able to have them get in contact with our members and see if we could donate some of this hay. Also, with the month of May, it is very hot, so I'm worried if we were to host this, some of our members could get hurt by the heat outside. I'm urging you to simply vote down.
Mr. President.
Delegate 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm against killing off this main motion. Our advisors have been on us to donate more of the funds that we raise. We recently have been doing fundraisers just to fund our chapter, so we need more donation drives than we do actual fundraisers. So I think this would be a perfect one that we could add very easily to our plan. So I'm urging the Assembly to fail this postponement.
Mr.
Mr.
President.
Delegate 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. Though I'm against the main motion, I believe that killing off it is a bad idea. We have just now started discussing this motion, and I believe we should protect the rights of the minority. We should hear both sides and conduct them in an order and not kill it immediately. For these reasons, I urge the Assembly to fail.
Mr. President.
Delegate 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in affirmation to this postponement. With summer just around the corner, travel season is about to go into full effect, causing gas prices to skyrocket through the roof due to such high demand. I believe that, just this morning, gas prices in Olney were $3.74 per gallon, and this price is going to rise as the months continue. I believe that we would be spending too much money on gas, and therefore we should pass the postponement.
Mr. President.
Delegate 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to take a 30-minute recess.
It's been moved and seconded to take a 30-minute recess. This motion is amendable and requires a majority vote for passage. Do I hear any amendments? Seeing none, we'll now proceed to vote on having a 30-minute recess. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
The noes have it, we will not take this recess.
Mr. President.
Delegate 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to extend the limits of debate to 3 debates per member on the pending question.
It's been moved and seconded to extend the limits of debate to 3 debates per member on the pending question. This motion is amendable and requires a 2/3 majority vote for adoption. Are there any amendments? Seeing none, we'll now proceed to vote on having the limits of debate extended to 3 debates per member on the pending question. All in favor, please signify by rising. Thank you. You may be seated. All opposed, please rise. Thank you. You may be seated. There are less than 2/3 in the affirmative, therefore the motion fails. Are you ready for the question?
Mr. President.
Delegate 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to amend the main motion by striking out the word Kansas and inserting the words Illinois.
It's been properly moved and seconded to amend the main motion by striking out the word Kansas and inserting the word Illinois. So if adopted, the amended motion shall read that the Olney FFA chapter conduct a surplus hay drive in our community during the month of May with the proceeds to be distributed to drought-stricken FFA chapter in Illinois. This motion is amendable, debatable, and requires a majority vote to be adopted. Is there any debate?
Mr. President.
Delegate 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. Although I've been against this main motion, I believe this amendment gives it purpose. Seeing that Illinois is way closer to home, I think it'd be easier to transport this hay. Also, although I had previous concerns about getting this hay, we have good connections with surrounding chapters, so I think we'd be able to get it very easily. Pass this amendment.
Mr. President.
Delegate 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do not think this amendment is a good idea. Although we are in Illinois and it may be closer, I'm not sure if there's any chapters in the state of Illinois who are currently being drought stricken. I think if we were to do this, our helping hands would not be able to help as much as they would if they could out west. Emergency Assembly to vote down.
Mr. President.
Delegate 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to refer this motion to the Standing Economic Development Committee.
It's
Second.
been moved and seconded to refer this matter to the Standing Economic Development Committee. This motion is amendable, debatable, and requires a majority vote to be referred. Is there any debate?
Mr. President.
First rights, Delegate 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe this referral is the best course of action for this motion. Our committees are the most efficient and effective they've ever been in recent years, all due to this year's vice presidents. Our VPs have done a wonderful job communicating and coordinating with these committees. Therefore, I believe it is highly unlikely that this motion were to slip through the cracks and be forgotten about. Vote yes.
I call for the orders of the day.
The orders of the day have been called for by Delegate 2. We are currently on new business and discussing the referral of the main motion.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Delegate 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. I cannot support this referral. Seeing that I believe a special committee would be better for this. I've spoken to only FFA chapter members that want to get more involved, and so I think creating a special committee would be very good. Also, our special committees this year have been very successful, so if we want to consider this motion, it would be best handled in a special committee instead of a standing. Fail this referral.
Mr. President.
Delegate 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe that this is a fantastic idea. Over generations, we have been building our chapter up to what its name it really is. We should not go into this blind and research some more things. How much money of the money are we making from this, and what chapter we are giving it to. For these reasons, I just somebody to vote up.
Mr. President.
Delegate 1.
Due to the arrival of our guest speaker, I move to lay this motion on the table.
It's been moved and seconded to lay this matter on the table. All those in favor of laying these motions on the table say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
The noes have it. We will not lay this motion on the table.
Mr. President.
Delegate 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the previous question.
Second.
Been moved
I
and
withdraw my motion.
motion withdrawn.
I rise to parliamentary inquiry.
What's your inquiry, Delegate 5?
Would it be in order to postpone this matter definitely at this time?
Yes, the motion to postpone to a certain time would be in order now.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Delegate 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to postpone this matter until our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to postpone this matter to our next regularly scheduled meeting. This motion is amendable, debatable, and requires a majority vote to be passed. Is there any debate?
Mr. President.
Delegate 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this is the best way to handle this motion. We can put this to our next meeting and be able to talk to our members and advisors during the layover period. I also think that we should have plenty of time to get this done over the summer so that we could fully and capable of doing this motion. I'm ready to assembly to pass this postponement.
Mr. President.
Delegate 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. I cannot support this postponement. Seeing that our next meeting is in the summer, we will have very low meeting attendance, seeing that members don't want to come in. Also, our summer meetings tend to have very short agendas, so I do not believe this will fit in our agenda. Fail this postponement.
Mr.
Delegate
President.
4.
Thank you, Mr. President. I cannot stand behind this postponement. Seeing that this community hay drive is supposed to be in May, our next meeting is in June, therefore the time period will pass. I do not think that this would be necessary, seeing that we would not even be able to hold out the motion. Emergency Assembly vote down.
Mr.
Delegate
President.
2.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a good idea for our chapter. We have many things going on right now, including graduation and FFA cleanup after our banquet. We need to figure out and get all our stuff together before we can do this. So let's postpone this. Vote up.
Mr. President.
Delegate 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in strong agreement with this motion. We should not rush into the passing of this main motion, as there are still many details we need to figure out. The third paragraph of the FFA creed states, I believe my own ability to work efficiently and clearly. By postponing this motion, I believe we'll be able to get a clear idea on what to do about this. I also believe this will provide the most efficient outcome for our chapter. Vote yes.
Is there any further debate? The question on postponing this matter to our next regularly scheduled meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
The noes have it. Motion fails.
Division.
Division has been called for. We will now proceed to rise and go. All in favor, please rise. Thank you. You may be seated. All opposed, please rise. The motion passes 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negation. Is there any further business? Seeing none, I now declare this meeting adjourned by general consent. Please rise for questioning from the parliamentarian.
Okay, we're going to start with contestant 1. You had postpone definitely. What is the purpose of postpone definitely by special order?
Postpone definitely given a special order is to give it to the next meeting and give it a special time to come up during the meeting so it is sure to be dealt with.
How long can a motion be postponed if an FFA chapter holds regular business meetings every week on the same day?
Until the next meeting.
Thank you. Contestant number 2, you had limit debate.
Correct.
The motion to limit debate requires what vote to pass?
Takes a standing 2/3 vote to pass.
When is the limit debate considered exhausted?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, sir. When is the limit debate considered exhausted?
It's considered exhausted when we have had multiple debates to where limiting it has no point at this point because everyone has had too many debates.
Number 3, you had reconsider. The motion to reconsider can only be made by the member who voted with the prevailing side. Explain this.
Yeah, so if I were to reconsider a motion that passed at the last meeting or the same meeting, I would have to pass the motion with it. I would have to be the one to vote with it, pass it, and then I would be the one to be able to reconsider it again, because that means I voted on the prevailing side.
There is a time limit on a motion to reconsider. What is that restriction?
The motion to reconsider can be used in the same meeting or the meeting the next day, so long as that meeting is in the same session.
Number 4, you had division of assembly. How soon can a division of assembly be made?
A division of the assembly can be called right after the gavel is tapped and the vote is announced up until the next motion is brought up.
When a division of assembly is called, the chairperson is not obligated to take a counted vote. In large assemblies, how would the members demand a counted vote?
Could you please repeat the question?
Yes, ma'am. When a division of the assembly is called, the chairperson is not obligated to take a counted vote. In large assemblies, how would the members demand a counted vote?
In large assemblies, they can make a motion to request to have a certain type of voting. So they could, or say, I move to vote by ballot or standard counted vote.
Number 5, you had parliamentary inquiry.
Yes, sir.
What is the purpose of a parliamentary inquiry?
So the purpose of a parliamentary inquiry is to ask the chairman's opinion on a question relating to parliamentary law.
The chairman's response to a parliamentary inquiry is not subject to an appeal. Why not?
Because it is his opinion and not a ruling.
And last but not least, we have Mr. Chair. If you are instructed by a motion of the assembly to form a committee, who selects the chairman of that committee?
The chairman would select the chairman of that committee.
The chairman is responsible for maintaining the proper decorum in a meeting. This includes expecting floor members to conduct themselves in a professional manner, demonstrating proper etiquette when debating a motion. Robert's Rules of Order establishes rules of decorum in debate. Name 2 of those rules.
Could you please restate the question?
Make me say
I'm
that whole
sorry.
thing?
I'm sorry. I need to think about it.
You're good. The chairman is responsible for maintaining the proper decorum in a meeting. This includes expecting floor members to conduct themselves in a professional manner, demonstrating proper etiquette when debating a motion. Robert's Rules of Order establishes rules of decorum in debate. Name 2 of those rules.
2 of those rules related to decorum or to debate would be that members can only speak twice, that they must address the chair, and then they also are not allowed to use any type of slander within their debate.
Very good. You guys are done. Good job.
All right, please take off your placards, put those on the ground in front of you. Leave your cards on your seats, please.